Why invest? It's a big question. One that I get often, and one that doesn't have one answer. It has several answers. And in any discussion that is had honestly, you cannot have the right answer for everyone. And so I want to talk about Nigeria. Why invest in Nigeria? I want to speak about it honestly from my perspective, and especially from the perspective of a Nigerian investor or someone who has a passionate interest in the Nigerian environment. I will limit it to those two people. Someone who has a cultural affinity to Nigeria, a cultural interest in Nigeria, and a Nigerian, no matter where you are in the world. Nigeria is the question. Why invest? 170 million people would be my first answer. 170 million people who do not have basic amenities and a quality standard of living. 170 million human beings. Fulani cattle herding human beings. Hausa trading human beings. Igbo human beings. Yoruba human beings. With all our differences and diversity, we are a people living a life on this earth that is a little more difficult than it needs to be. My first reason why one should invest is because there are people here and they need the investment made in the right places by the right people with the right interests, so that we can begin to craft a society that is livable and not what I coin an environment for human animals. I want to build a nation for human beings. That is the first and most important reason why anybody who is investing here should invest, to solve the problem of waking up a Nigerian. I remember my first pitch for Living Capital. I was having a conversation. A friend of mine invited me to his house. 8 people, average of them was a Naira billionaire, very wealthy man. One of them was a former Commodore in the Nigerian Navy. And the other one was in oil and gas. The other one was in defense contracting. They were all moneyed, and they have survived and invested in Nigeria from the economic perspective and reaped the rewards. And halfway through my conversation, one of them interrupted me and said, "You sound more like an activist." And I really didn't know how to react to that. My reaction is that Living Capital and my ambitions in investing in Nigeria, and your ambitions in investing in Nigeria, should be as much an activist position as it is a capitalist proposition. On one hand is a people that do not have an American dream, or a Chinese dream, or a German dream, or a Russian dream. And they should have a Nigerian dream. They should have a vision for themselves that is actualizable, that someone should wake up on one strata of the society and know that he can go through these rudiments and activities and eventually end up living a reasonable life. That an average human being in Nigeria can have clean water and energy and roads to get to where he is going, and be able to put his children through school or through apprenticeships or whatever, and be able to craft a future for himself. That's an activist position. But it's also a capitalist proposition. 170 human beings who don't have water. It's an enterprise. A tangible enterprise. Nigeria gives you the opportunity to invest in real world, practical, physical needs. That there are a set of people living in a certain space in this world and they don't have access to clean water. Most of them don't. I'm not talking about drinking water. I'm talking about just water. And I'm not talking about it to degrade the Nigerian space. I'm talking about it because it's a fact. And it's a fact that's an economic opportunity that someone can invest in. They don't have 24-hour electricity. It's a fact. In 2018, we are sitting here, and the light that is in this room that I am in is only guaranteed because I have inverters and a generating set. It isn't because NEPA is giving me light. The Nigerian electricity distribution companies are not the reason why we have light at this moment. Light isn't guaranteed in Nigeria. Economic opportunity. Schools in Nigeria raise engineers in training, lawyers in training, everything in training, because there's no equipment in most of the institutions that will give you a hands-on understanding of what it means to run a data center. There aren't data centers in Nigeria. I'm not clowning Nigeria. I love my country. But this is the problem that we have. That the basic things, the things that are embarrassing to talk about, the things that when you are sitting with people that are your age, in your caliber economically, that you cannot compare the standard of living in your life to their standard of living in their country. That as a well-to-do Nigerian, that I am an employer of labor, that water in my house right now, I'm paying for it from a tanker, and they fill it in a tank, and I pump it up to my house at my level. That's why you should invest in Nigeria, because I would be willing to pay for municipal water. I would be willing to pay for electricity 24/7. I can afford it. There's a market of 170 million people that can afford basic essentials like food. We already pay for it. Tomato, we call it awarawa, the one that is almost going bad because it's coming all the way from one part of the country on a truck, non-refrigerated, moving to another part of the country in a very, very unprofessional manner. And by the time it gets to the people that need it, a lot of it is going bad already, and that's the cheapest one you can get. And it will still cook food, but it's not fresh food. And if I can afford those inefficiencies that the Nigerian system provides and survive, and in many cases actually thrive and live a reasonable life, then I can definitely afford to pay for an organized system, for logistics companies that will get the food to where it needs to be at the right time and in the right condition. If I can afford to ship a basic phone, if I took my phone and I say I want to ship it from Lagos to Abuja, it will cost me a minimum of $10 to ship this phone. In a very inconvenient process. First, I would get in my car or take public transport, get to the shipping place, and do what is called a waybill. I would give them my phone and go home. Now, mind you, I've transported myself there and I've given them my phone. They would then transport it to their station in Abuja, if I'm shipping from Lagos to Abuja. And the person who will collect it will also take transport from their home. Now, I pay $10 for this inefficiency. Why wouldn't I pay $10 for an efficient process that picks it up from my home? When you grow businesses at a large scale and get in the efficiencies of mass production or industrial deliverables and deliveries, and you have a very easy process that's synchronized in a way that it cuts costs, you could be able to achieve an excellent service to the Nigerian people that they would be willing to pay for, because they're already paying for the expensive, inefficient alternative. So I guess what I'm saying is, why invest? Nigeria is an incredible market opportunity. With all its inefficiencies, it produces an opportunity for an investor, for an entrepreneur to do business in Nigeria. Then someone might say, okay, yeah, now I get why I should invest in Nigeria, but the political climate, I'm hearing about Fulani cattle herders and challenges of people who want Biafra, and your president is incompetent, and this and that and that. Yes, those things are issues, and every market environment has issues. So the question is, in the midst of the issues, why invest? I start again. People live here. Those people will live here in spite of how those problems progress or they not. No matter what happens to the state of Nigeria, the country of Nigeria, no matter how the future moves left or right, 170 million people still live here. If you are providing them with food, it doesn't invalidate your investment. It makes for a difficult market environment, but that's the pessimistic view anyway. If things were to get so horrible as to begin to discuss a Nigeria divided, But that's an unlikely scenario, because I am here. People like me are here, committed to the unity and the sanctity of a Nigerian state. Not because it is indivisible, but because it's a pragmatic solution. 250 different distinct ethnic groups is a cultural melting pot. It's an opportunity. But we need unity to be able to achieve that. And one of the reasons or ways in which you can achieve that unity is to empower the positive elements and the positive opportunities in the country. You give room through investment for the shining lights to exhibit themselves in entrepreneurship and bring up solutions to the basic problems that cause the heating up of the polity. The basic problem of Nigeria is that there isn't enough money in this economy. We're a wealthy nation, we're not a poor nation, but the money doesn't spread. It's not enough for 170 million people. A man once said, what's your definition of wealth? Is it having a lot of money or enough? And one person I heard say that wealth is not how much money you have, but how little problems you have. The Nigerian state has a reasonable amount of money, but it has a tremendous amount of problem. Its money cannot solve its problems. And that's the challenge of the Nigerian state. That is the reason why we have issues with cattle herders, running inside bushes, eating people's crop, is economic survival. We must always look at each other as human beings. It mustn't be hatred for one or the other. That's why we have people speculating on petroleum products during Christmas, inflating the price. Economic pragmatism. They want to survive. We want to create a platform, and investment can do that. Proper investment in the proper sectors can create a platform for the Nigerian people to live healthy lives. Nigerians aren't living healthy lives. They're not living healthy lives in the structure of the country, from the basic necessities we just mentioned, like food and water and education and all those things. But they're also not living healthy lives because they are over competing and always fighting with each other for the very little opportunities that exist. And those little opportunities exist because the right investments have not been made to diversify the Nigerian economy, to open up what it means to be educated, to expand beyond the basic foundation that the past generations have laid. And one thing that you have to recognize is that when we are talking about investing in Nigeria, we're also talking about tremendously different climates and environments. For example, my head office is in Enugu, Nigeria. In Enugu, Nigeria, we have one of the most peaceful environments in the entire country. And investment in that place is not conscious of Boko Haram. It's a non-starter. It's not a discussion to be held. It's a secure environment. It has its own international airport and access. Many other environments have those level of subtraction from the extreme melees of the Nigerian condition. But even in those places that are battleground states, and there is no war zone in Nigeria, people make investments in Iraq. There is no Iraq in Nigeria. There is no tremendous chaos. I walk down the street, it's peaceful. I live my life, I function daily. I have basic issues, basic necessities that are my problems. My problems are not security. My problem is not my ability to function and reason with the man next to me. I live with reasonable people. I live among human beings. Majority of the people around me are intellectually sane. They function well in a society. If they left the four walls of the Nigerian state and moved to America or Germany and all, they would just fit right in and kick right back because the system works. The basic problem of the Nigerian state is that the system doesn't work. 170 million people with a youthful population, reasonable cost of employment, reasonable technical skills in education that can be polished up quite easily to run any industry in the world. The very same people that run the hospitals in the UK and in the US, they are groomed here at the University of Nigeria. The very same people that run wonderful engineering environments in Germany, they are groomed right here at the University of Benin. Nigeria manufactures excellence in all fields. In agriculture, in sports and entertainment, in film, in theater, in law, in healthcare, and in investing. We have beautiful authors, beautiful dancers, beautiful singers, beautiful churches with beautiful leaders that have built massive religious empires that span beyond the Nigerian state. We have some of the wealthiest Africans in the world living here. We have intellectuals. We have everything. So the challenge with Nigeria is, how do we reformat to create a scenario where we can invest in who we are and what we have and still be okay and make it a financially sustainable investment, a reasonable economic proposition, but without forgetting that at the end of the day, it's about people. There are 170 million people here, and they need food. That's why we invest in agriculture. They need repair now and again. That's why we invest in healthcare. They need to get places and get things to places. That's why we invest in transportation. They need a culture that is owned. They cannot live on Telemundo. It's counter to their culture. And that's why we invest in media. They need to be educated on a standard that will make them able to fit into any environment in the world and thrive. And even better still, to be able to build up their environment. That's why we invest in education. They need to wake up and enjoy their existence and share love with their family members and celebrate their graduations and take vacations. That's why we invest in hospitality. We invest in the sectors that we invest in because they are the human sectors. They are the essential sectors, and they are lacking in the Nigerian environment. We need our people and all those who claim love for the Nigerian state and who want affinity to the progress of the Nigerian people. Sitting on the sidelines, you can never score a goal. We all need to understand that. We all need to get in the game. You mustn't get in the game with living capital, but you must get in the game and start making conscious investments in the Nigerian state. One, because of the people and the opportunity that they represent. Two, because of the people and the wealth they can create for you. Three, because of the people. They are your people. If just by mere cultural affinity to the Nigerian people, we're your people. If, even worse still, you are Nigerian, I'm your brother. How are you going to retire? What's going to happen to the next generation? One of the reasons why I moved back to Nigeria is that I was visiting Nigeria because of my early business interests and because, of course, I'm Nigerian. And at some point I just took stock. I said, if this country continues to progress in the way that it is, 20 years from now, can I raise my children here? No, I would raise them in the American state. They would be American citizens. Not a bad idea by itself. Then they will grow. They will be the second generation that were born in America. And then what will happen to their children? As an Igbo man, that means I'm a mate. Yeah? It's just over. My name dies. They go and live in America. I don't want my children to live and die in America. I don't want to live and die in America. I want to live here fruitfully and die here. Keyword, fruitfully. Shouldn't waste my life. God didn't give me my life to waste it. And that's one of the key reasons, probably the most important reason why you must invest in this environment, because Nigeria is home. And home is fucked up, for lack of a better word. What other word can I use? Apologize if you're watching with your kids, but home is fucked up. And it's up to you and me to fix home, to consciously look at the problems and chip away at them, to take the little bit that we're making now, grow wealth for ourselves later, not a 401k, not a retirement plan that's domiciled in London or domiciled in Germany, a Nigerian retirement plan. Strategically build up your nation so that when you come home, you can be proud. In the modern day of solar electricity, we no longer have to talk about municipal power to provide 24-hour electricity for ourselves. As I am sitting here in my office, I don't complain particularly in my office about water because we've provided that essential service to ourselves. And on a large scale, we can make the investment to provide that kind of municipal water, estate by estate, community by community. But that means my money cannot carry it, and your money cannot carry it. At some point we have to come together and build together. I call it the power of we. What we need is the power of me and you as a combined entity. At Living Capital, we say that there are 4 pillars. The reasons why business don't thrive in Nigeria is not just money. We call it human capital, resource capital, idea capital, and financial capital. The first is the idea. I need your ideas, and you need mine. The best idea should win. The best idea is what we should be working on. That's a type of investment that you are interested in your nation. It mustn't be economic. You start to put your ideas in motion, and you start to craft solutions for the Nigerian space. We need that. Ideas that are at the level of intellectual property where it really does solve the problem. Not an American way, not a German way, not a Japanese way, a Nigerian solution to a Nigerian problem. Then we talk about human resource capital. We need to start thinking about moving back home and contributing the knowledge that we've gained. And for those of us that are home in Nigeria, we need to stop thinking about leaving and find the energy to create a solution that is domiciled here. Make your money here by making change here. We can't continue to blame past administrations or people that are about to die and who have enough for the fact that we can't live a basic existence. I'm talking about water. I keep mentioning water because we're talking about water. Nigerians fund water projects in other countries. We give water to people. Nigerians are wealthy, successful, globe-trotting people, educated people. We don't have clean water. We're not talking about drinking water. I can buy that in a bottle. Even if I was in America, I would still have to buy it in a bottle. Bottled water is bottled water. We're talking about clean water to shower and wash your clothes. That the fact that this is clean takes a lot of energy that it shouldn't have to. We need ingenuity to come back home. People need to think about how to bring their strength back home, their energy back home, in their youth back home, not when it's depleted. I once met a man, I would never forget him. I was talking to him, a Nigerian investor, and he said, "King, I have to tell you something. I like this idea. Do you know what? I have run out of ideas." It was hard for him to say that, I know. He has done a lot. He has achieved a lot. He is successful, but he's old. His time has passed. Don't come back when your time is past. We don't need you anymore. What you're going to do is deplete our resources because we have to fund your retirement. Come now that you're strong and do something. Build something for your country. And there's an economic opportunity in that. And then we talk about resource capital, that there are things people know or things people have access to, like licenses and whatever else that can be concessioned or borrowed or used to support an enterprise, community land, for example, that are not tangible to, you don't quantify. It's not about the money. You know, come in and build this and we want a school in return, or come in and build this and we want you to employ members of the community. We work on that. It's essential. It mustn't be cash. Then you get to the financial capital. And this is where everybody can contribute, because it's not about investing billions. That's the living capital opportunity. That's the opportunity anybody can give at a small scale or participate in the large scale developments that we are investing in. This is a freestyle video. I like freestyle videos because I think the heart speaks. The heart is better than when you write things down. But I also hate them because sometimes You get confused as to whether you're rambling or whether you're making a point until you finish. How do you finish? Nigeria. Why invest? I don't know. That's the God honest truth. Because you can invest in the American Stock Exchange and you make money. So I can't say it's about the money. Talk about making change. Some people just make change in their nuclear family. That's change. I talked about water. You can do a borehole. Your family will be fine. Live a comfortable life. Provide electricity for yourself. I don't know why you should invest. I rounded up with why I invest. I invest because I'm 30 years old. And I want to live a full life. When I'm in Nigeria, every time I'm invited to a child dedication, it's real family. I go to a burial, I have reason to cry. It's real family. I read the newspaper, it's good news, I jump up. It's bad news, I'm really sad. I'm affected. I'm alive when I'm here. But there are standards of living I have experienced elsewhere in the world which do not exist at home. I invest because I want them to exist at home. I want to give birth to wonderful children who live a wonderful life, all of which they live in a home, in a country called Nigeria. And when they go abroad, they call it a vacation. And they do not call it a vacation because there are things those people have that they don't have. It's just because it's a different place. And I want to grow up, and when I'm old, I will be in a country where my children can take a vacation. In Nigeria. And they will be excited to have gone to a place in Nigeria, not just because it's remote and exotic and dangerous, but it's clean, it's natural, it's alive, it's world class. You can compare it to any environment in the world. You say, I'm going to the River Niger, and there's a cruise that's being organized for students of so and so, which my children happen to be a part of, and they go for a cruise on the River Niger. I want my children to be able to say, oh, I'm going for a safari, I want to go hike in a Nigerian hill, and it's well kept, and there's security. And I don't want to hear one of my children is lost and I start panicking. I'll be like, just call the Nigerian police, and they'll answer and they'll say, good afternoon, sir, how are you? What is your problem? I say, I have a complaint to make. They say, can you come to the station? You give me good customer service, Nigerian police. I want to drive on the side of the road and see the Nigerian army and salute them with pride. I want to live in a country, I want to be proud. I want to go to America. Last time I went to Dubai, I was yelling at the woman at the Hilton. I said, excuse me, there's a problem with your watch. She said, what's the problem? I said, one clock is missing. She said, what clock is missing? I said, there's no Lagos, no Abuja, no Enugu. Are you mad? I was joking, of course. But I want to live in a world where when you travel, that clock of London, I want it replaced. Nigeria is in the same time zone. Nigeria should be there. London is a much smaller nation. Nigeria is a much greater people. What else should I say? I think that does it. Thank you very much. You have your own reasons for investing. I think the Nigerian people is enough reason for me.